Hey, how you doing? Alright, let's get on this. We're going for it. Thank you. Alright. Okay, let's get a game. We're gonna find a really good game here, and then we'll get on to it. Let's see here. Just wanna get a good one. Here we go. It's white. White is 1679, and the other. See, did we already go over this one? Nope. No, we didn't go over this one yet. Nope. Okay, perfect. White 1676 and black is 1976. Black won here. Just to let you know. So e4, d5, e takes d, knight f6, d4, and bishop bishop g4. Supposedly this is the Portuguese variation, or Portugal's variation. So one of the 7 possible responses, but probably the most solid, as it asserts that white's a small advantage without risk. Still, black always has ways to spice things up, which is why I have been playing the variation I just said for many years. As there's a couple other players that have played it as well. Hey, how you doing? And so, then bishop takes, queen takes d5, and knight f3, not knight c3, knight f3 to cover this pawn. Knight c6, and knight actually here is an interesting move. They're saying that not the best choice, since at some point white would like to have the opportunity to either play c3. Yeah, okay, yeah. White would like to have the opportunity to either play c3 or c4. They played knight to c3 here, and it's solid, but it doesn't allow c4. Some of the Scandinavian players to actually attack the queen is c4. You potentially can go c4 in this line, but you may lose a piece here though. So there's always that potential. So r c3 with knight with bishop coming out, and then knight bd2 bd2, yeah. But c3 was played, which is more of a solid line. Okay. So queen f5. This is an attack here, here, and potentially there. So castles, rook d1. Oh, e6. Sorry, rook d1. That'd give white 2 moves. Now rook d1 here to slam home the takes here, or the push, and then queen to g5. queen, hold on. Oh, sorry, queen e7. And then queen g5. This is a dubious move here. This move helps black's decision to help black decide which way to castle. And the end result will be a dual attack on the king side, which is what black is hoping for with the opening. Potentially, rather than bishop here, is a3, because a3 allows for b4, knight to a4, and then c4 choice to be played with a battering ram attack, when black should probably opt to castle short. This way, with bishop to g5, this only helps black to choose castle king side, queen side. Bishop h4 is an interesting move. Black actually played a dubious move, which is g5. It's not a common sacrifice in the opening, not in the middle game, but in the opening is like a g5 move. You have to be careful where you put your pawns in these lines, because you have to remember that you have to get your pawns rolling. So a common sacrifice in the opening, and I was counting on white's reply with bishop g3, and then I would continue with a rapid attack. However, I overrated black's position after bishop takes here. Black's position here. Knight takes d4. Yeah, after g5, right. White's I think it says that black he thought, see, black's the higher level player here, and black played g5 for the ability basically to play rook and kind of open a file onto the king. And that's what this sacrifice is based on, opening up a file onto the G file. Yeah. And so that's kind of what that line is based on. And let me see here, I gotta make sure. They actually played g3 here, so they believe this is actually one of the lines. Knight takes d, rook takes d, rook takes d, knight takes, let me see. Takes d, rook takes d4 takes, knight takes, and queen takes. Okay. Queen takes here. Rook d1, and queen g8, g3. Oops, g3, and h5. Overlooking that knight takes. E6 is actually a crushing setup. And when they move, you actually pick up a potential piece type of setup here. I'm thinking. Let me see. Let me make sure. Queen takes. Yep. Queen takes E. Yep. This is what they were talking about. That's why they couldn't, and they played just bishop g3, bishop g3. So white actually missed out on a crushing line. If white had been, as we talked about, had focus, forcing move mentality, white would have checked looked at this move sequence and worked it out. So let's do it to it. H5. So now black's coming through like a avalanche. The pawns are just coming like, we're coming in, and white's like going, no. 95. Oh no, he's gonna lose a piece. Let's see here. Yeah, they should have taken here. They actually take knight takes d4, and that does not make much sense. This actually is a better line. And then bishop takes with approximately an equal position, but slightly better for black here. This is just a plain old mistake. This just helps white. I don't know what black was thinking here. Black's very blessed. Black ended up winning, but white, I think, missed a couple optimum chances for victory, though. That's just my opinion. Queen c4, and then h4, and now, before playing this move, I spent a considerable amount of time, that's what they were saying, trying to calculate the enormous complications after white's best response and determine I had only there's only two real responses that they said, and was probably worse in each case. I should have played the more immediate back here, c5, just to hold the position. c5 is hardly appealing, but sometimes you have to do what you got to do. So this is kind of what you have to always be careful when you play h, because you have this move here. I want to make sure I have this in right. Hold on. Let me go back to just move 11 to see if I have this right. Okay. Okay, so good so far. I just wanted to make sure I have everything in optimum placement. Yep, good. Okay, so there. That's right. G, H, okay. 95, D takes. There. They're saying bishop g6 is actually their best response, which is an exclam. Yeah, I guess that would be an exclam win, and this would actually be their best response. This is white's best response here. I mean, but black's best response. H takes G. Takes. Oh, queen takes here. Okay, yikes. Okay, that makes sense now. Why, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Why this was actually white's best response now is that it attacks, it comes here and there, also attacks here, which attacks these 2 points. So nice move by white. That was a beauty move there. Beauty. Talk about a forcing move. That's a force move right there. That's like a force of nature that when they drop down the board, kaboom. It also is a very similar to a Talms type of move. So white's probably been looking at some Tall-like games, because this is a move that Tall would just plop on the board and just set it there and kick back and be thinking of his next tactical genius moves. White's best, and the only move, so no double exclam point here, but not necessarily easy to see, and a striking position nevertheless. White is threatening 3 black pieces, including a knight with check, also picking up black's queen. And oh, by the way, it must have been a lady, because they said she is threatening mate in 1 while simultaneously hanging 2 of her own pieces. I spent much of my remaining time analyzing my only 2 game-saving moves, each with its own set of complications. Yeah, there's 2 moves that that could be played here. One is rook d7, which hangs a rook, and the other is queen to queen c5. They actually played this, and I think this is more losing. Let's check queen c5 out. Queen c5 I think was better in this line. Oh, it liked yeah, queen c5 was better, so we were right. So the person actually did the second best. Oh, yeah, queen c5 was best. They did the second best move, which was rook d7. White actually made a mistake here. It looks like this actually is a good move. It's not a good move. It loses a piece. They should have simplified down into a game that is basically equal. Knight takes e7, rook takes e7. I was worried about bishop bishop d6 here, because this now threatens 2 things: the rook, so that if bishop there, if rook comes over here, now you have let me see here, what can we play? Rook takes rook takes d. You're winning a piece right there. So there, here. So he can't do that. Bishop takes e7 and knight. She said I needed to fight back, so she should have actually. That's why queen c5 would have actually been a better move rather than rook d7 in the prior move for black. And then she also said that the rook d2 d7 was too tempting for white. That the other lady that she was facing played this move here, and now they just take back, and now white is technically lost, but the complications are anything but easy, especially in the view of clock situations. White had black took a long time to think before they played h4, and so even though white made a slight inaccurate move, big time inaccurate move. So I think she was nice with a question mark. I'm almost thinking that she should have put for her opponent a double question mark, because that turned the clock from a +1 to a -5.3. So that's like 6 points, a 6-point decrease in her opponent's basically potential for winning. 5 is one, or I think they said like 1.5 is enough for a super grandmaster to win, and black has 5, a -5, which means in theory their position is so good it's as valued as a rook. So it's like black having another rook on the board. That's how good black's position is right now. It's like having a whole another rook. So this knight take was a big time mistake, and it's going to be a long-term one that it's going to be hard for white to regroup after that type of a blunder. Yeah, that's how I look at it. 5 is actually what you get for a rook. Yeah, I was shocked when the meter went from a +1 to 5.31. I was like, wow, one move can do that. Yeah, one move can ruin your position. Lots of games have been lost by just one single move. So, and there was also another line I'm thinking that she said that she could have actually let me see here. Oh, okay. Oh, she took back this way. Okay, after this she took here. They were talking that potentially this could have been a move. It's bad that allows queen takes here, king h1, rook takes, with a dominating position, and a potentially rook here, rook there and down, and potentially even here. It wins the queen too. It's like, so white's holding on by just taking. Black was very low in time at this point, and black played a inferior move here. It looks like it's a practical move. You're black. Just think of a tempting move, but it's a question mark. What move would black move here that looks so tantalizing, but it's a question mark move? Oh, I wanted to give this one to you, my chess viewers and chess friends. What do you think black's move is? Black to move and a question mark move. But it's so tantalizing, it looks like it works. What do you think it is? You're black to move. That is tempting. That is tempting. Queen H6. Oh yeah, that is interesting. Think of one. You both did great, but think of one even more obvious than even that. More obvious than even that. Just look at something that's a tactic. Look at a tactic, not just like knight or something. Look at something that would set up for a check. What piece could be used to set up for a check? Look at the king, and this pawn shield is gone. So this is all open. This right here is all open. Oops. This diagonal is open for an attack. So what piece would you think would be an obvious move to set up for? Yeah, exactly. Bishop c5 was actually played, and then she actually said that what could this? It's funny. This is actually losing, not losing, but it throws the basically it hits the tennis ball back in the court of her opponent, basically to do an ace, a big time slam down to win. This actually was a mistake. Supposedly, the best forcing move was actually Queen Knight G4 would have actually been more of a exclam type of setup. It would have kept the tempo. Rook F1, and then Queen to H7, like you said, play okay 274. This move at this point is like killer, because now you're threatening mate. And then H3 is forced with knight to E3, and now you're picking up you actually pick up a piece. You pick up the rook back. White's position's wrecked, plus it's you're going to lose a piece. The queen would maybe have to move, and then first of all you could play queen takes queen, pawn takes, and then knight grabs there, and rook takes. And then at this point it's about equal. It's about equal, but I like White's positions more. I mean, Black's position more because of king safety, and the pawn structure is 2 pawn islands instead of 3 pawn islands. So endgame favors Black, but this move really does nothing but causes a headache. It forces the king to go to H1 where it actually wants to go. Surprisingly, it wants to go there. This knight, this bishop right here, was actually doing an okay job. It didn't need to do that. And plus, knight to G4 undiscovers a protection on the basically this pawn, and that's why rook, and then H here. Now the knight's under attack and the pawn's going there. And if H3, knight here, queen here, you potentially could take, let me see. You could actually, this is interesting. Let me see. How do we actually do this? Okay, knight DF. Okay. Knight df5 here. Now this knight is hanging, and this still is under attack there. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. But this bishop to c5 allowed for a king h1, and now this doesn't have as much threat. G4 isn't as big of a deal. And that's what she actually played, was knight G4. The move moved too little. It's too late. Move too late. White responds with rook D2. This was actually a mistake. If White would have responded with rook F1, this would not have had as much teeth to it, because now there's no real threat of mate at this point, because bishop D6. You still have to be careful with this attack here. 1 second. Bishop D6. Is that right? Oh, B6. Sorry. Bishop B6. I knew there was a problem. I mistook there, bishop B6. And basically they're saying that A4 and White can pull a draw here. Surprisingly, White could actually pull a draw. This line draws because there's too much. Black's pieces aren't coordinated enough to hold for a win. You can just move your rook here, go after there, after takes and takes. Now the queen's protecting the knight, so yeah. Who'd have thunk? Now this was a mistake by White. White moved, I can already tell you, White moved a little too fast, not thinking. I think White already had given up in their mind. They had an opportunity to save the game. Never give up, my friends, on a chess position. because you never know if your opponent might make enough inaccurate moves to throw the ball into a draw for you. But black blundered back too with bishop b6, which is actually a mistake. Knight f3 is actually the move that was the crunch bone breaking move for it wins. The threat is mate in 1. It's actually a mate in 1 idea. If e takes g, then queen takes, and if the intercepts here, you have this move check, there, check. I'm thinking, let me see here. Oh, wait a second. Is that right? I want to make sure I have the lines set up right, because I see it in my mind, right? Okay, if takes here. Okay, queen takes. Hold on, I just want to check the line to make sure. Okay, takes here. Okay, knight f2. Oops. Knight f2. King g1. Knight h3. Rook d2. So knight h3. King h1 is forced. So it's mate 15. So there's mate. If you play here, king g, it doesn't say mate anymore. Go figure. I don't know. That's oops. Hold on. Let me self-analyze it or analyze it. But black missed it. So that was an interesting move setup. But let's see what she writes, because she looked through it here. Takes rook g2, knight. Oh, so she went down the after the check, and then there she went down rook d2 line. The rook d2 line, queen f1 to hold, knight f2 check, king g1, and then yeah, this is what she was talking about too. That there's mate in 3 here. Let's see here. What's the mate 3? Okay, queen takes f1. Queen takes f1 here, and then a rook checkmate. And so that was the lines. She said that this still showed enough. Bishop b6 was still enough to get her to time. See, this was the move that got her in. I think she met the time so that she can get move 40 or it was move 20 here, and I think that they had a time thing or something, because this was, she said, because of time pressure she moved this. So h3. Hold on, what did I miss? Oh, knight h2, rook takes, queen takes. Yeah, white correctly rejected going knight here. Yeah, it would have been a bad decision on their part. Let's see. Ah, sorry. I knew I missed something there. Delete that. There's the mate. So that was kind of the mate that was met. So that's why white took the knight instead of going into mate 3. That would have been horrible. So takes, okay, queen takes. Now after all the chaos, material is equal again, but black's pieces are better placed and white can't address all the threats at one time. Queen f1, queen takes, rook takes, knight f5, rook f3. G4 was a mistake, perhaps a bit too tricky here. The simple bishop d4 would have actually solved a whole lot of the problems. Because how is she going to, if you take here, the rook just takes, and you're down material again. But she played g4, which was a bit too rash of a decision. f6, and it's tempting to take this. I want to ask a question to you, my friends, chess cruncher friends. Would you take the knight? Would you take the knight? Would you take the knight, or would you do a different move? If you're thinking about taking it, does it have any? You always got to ask yourself, why would my opponent give me a piece? Why would my opponent give me a piece? Take a second and take another look to see if the take wins or loses. Are you Erie? Are you gonna agree with? Are you gonna stick with takes? Or are you gonna agree with play okay? 274. Are you gonna agree with play okay? Or are you gonna stick with takes? Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. If you take, it's mate because of this here. Correct. Yeah, you have to always ask yourself. Like I got in a position, I was able to win the game, but my opponent was going to give me a rook for free. But what happened was, if I had taken the rook, yeah, my opponent, if I had taken the rook, it would have been stalemate. So you have to always ask yourself, why is my opponent giving me a piece? If you check it, and you check it maybe for a couple minutes or so, and then you find out that there's nothing wrong with it, but just taking it that your opponent overlooked something, then take it. But always look for the intent behind that, because there's a reason that black's letting you have their knight, and it's mate. So that was interesting. Yeah, you always got to ask yourself, why did my opponent move that move? And why is my opponent willingly giving me a piece? And sometimes it's just a pure old blunder, sometimes, but the majority of the time they're setting up for a certain tactic or mating net or something more to it. So rook h7, check. Now he can intercept. He's going to lose. He's going to lose a pawn here. Rook takes, 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 and now the rook has to come over. Force. These are all forcing moves, by the way. So these are all forcing moves. Rotates g. So now black's up a pawn here with a better bishop too, and he's got a passed e6 pawn. This forcing sequence has resulted in a 1 endgame for black. The next 11 moves were blitzed off so that both players could make time control. Yeah. It says, thank goodness for a 10-second delay. So they got down to their delays, not time added on, but delays. So queen to queen h6, king d7. He can't take this, by the way. If he takes it, I guess it'd be checkmate. So he can't. That's why the king was able to come up. The king had to come up to h2 to actually f5 was played at this point. Rook h5, bishop f2. Now black's trying to trade off. Rook d1, knight d1, h7 check, rook takes is forced. These are all forcing moves. And then knight to e3, bishop f6, c3, pawn c3, and king to c6. You gotta activate your king in the endgame. b5, g4, trying to undermine the, but he just plays f4. Rook f1, king d5. Now he's got two passers. Knight d2. This covers these points and this, so the king can't come any further. But e5 was pushed, and you don't really need to come any further after that. It's game over at this point. Basically, white's gonna end at this point. Black's connected pass pawns allow him to win in 16 moves. There was I don't think all their moves got recorded, but in 16 moves, black actually won here. So they made, I think, time control move 40. Now they made time control. Hold on, I'll put on a game. I have to go grab my oops, where is that? Our puzzle book really quick. So I'll put this on for you. I'll be right back. All right, let's set up some puzzles now. This is a different. These aren't mates. These are a little bit different in moves. Let me see here. I want to make sure I get to the good section here. Ah, perfect. These are going to be fun. Here we go. They're not mates, but these are still really all right. White to move. Which piece can you take? Which piece can you take that isn't defended? Which piece can you take that isn't defended? We're kind of switching a little bit from checkmates to kind of exactly. You were right. Okay, let's set up another one. Which piece can you take here? Exactly. Great work. Are you sure are you sure it's E3? Are you 100% sure? You are right. It is E3. Nice job. Nice work. Great work there. I was just testing to see if you had changed your answer, but you stuck with it. Great job. Okay. Let me see. So B3. This section's called "Escape from the Dungeon of Pawns." It's just a joke. That's what they call it. So the king's like in a dungeon, and what is the correct way that the king can get out? See, this is protected. There's only one piece that isn't protected, and you have to find it. And it's your escape route. Yes, nice work. Great job there. That is right. Let's see, F5. Let's see here, here, here. Oh man, now he's fully entrenched. What's the move now for white? He's fully entrenched here. E4. Oh, king takes E4. Okay. Yep, you both got it. Great job. That's it. Great work. Okay, so D4. D4. Okay. What is the move? What is the move? King takes D3. Correct. Excuse me. There we go. You are both right. Oops, I have to go back. I have it now. Yep. Okay. Yep, king f4. Excellent work. That is right. Let's get another. Let me see what's. Let me see here. I'm gonna check to see what we got. Okay, rooks, bishops, no. See here, so we got that. We did the dungeon. Let me get some good ones here. Ooh, this is an interesting one. Ah, perfect. Yeah, I'm glad I went to this section. This is a fun section here, so I had to clear the entire board. How does black stop all these pawns from promoting? Don't worry about checks. I had to add the kings because so don't worry about any checks or anything. How does the queen stop these pawns from promoting? How does this queen stop the pawns from promoting? Find the path to victory. Queen f8. Queen, are you sure? Are you sure queen f8? Or queen g8 play okay? Okay, queen yeah, there we go. That stops that. So let's set up the pawns again. Okay. Okay. So now these pawns want to get a rolling. So how do you stop these pawns? You sure D1? Is it a D1? E1 is correct, right? Right, nice job. Yep, E1. There we are. E8, yeah, E8. E8, yep. Yep, E8, there you go. These are some pretty fun puzzles. I like to go over them. They train your senses to be ready to stop the pawns at will. Okay. Now you got to be able to stop these pawns. So what would be, don't worry about the kings or anything. This is just a queen exercise with pawns. Queen d6. Queen 8. No, there's no checks. Don't worry about the checks. Yeah, the checks will work. Yeah. Yeah, don't worry about any of the checks because I have to add a king. It won't allow me to have a board. Yeah, there you go. Queen D6. Yep, great work. Because if a pawn pushes, then you take. If a pawn pushes, then you take. If he queens, then you take. So you have it all covered. Nice job. It's just an exercise so that you know how to stop pawns that are queening. And I'm going to put the king over, let me see. Okay. Don't worry about any checks. There's nothing involving checks. These kings are not, just imagine them off the board. It's just you and these pawns. You're black, and the pawns are trying to promote. How do you stop the pawns? All three of them. What do you think, Erie? Are you going to go queen b6, or do you have another idea? Oh. Yep. Because then if this happens, you take. If this happens, you take. And then if this happens, you take, and you're covering those two queenie squares. So either way, you're winning. Alrighty, let's do another one. H7. Okay. I'll have it right there. Okay. Now this is a little tougher of one. How are you going to handle the stopping these pawns now? Hey, how you doing? Queen F1. Oh, nice. Okay. What do you think, Erie? What's your best response for black? Do you have any other responses that you're interested in? Or are you going to go with play okay? Ah, nice job. Because if he plays here, where let's just say he plays there, where would you go now? Where would black go at this point? Oh yeah, I am streaming. I now stream a like a hour to an hour and a half. I mean, hour to a half an hour earlier. Change in my schedule. So I need to change my time settings. I have to go through and reset that. Yep, exactly. You got it. Okay, now that we played here, let's say that they're pushing. Let's say they go G7. What do you got to play now? Pawn G7. Okay. Perfect. You got it. And that was the move sequence. So one more. Great work there. Nice job. Okay, so this has to go over to the A file now. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Okay, king comes here. Where's the queen? Right there. And I'll move the king over here. Let me see. Now remember, There's no no checks on. Don't worry about the kings. Okay, this is all about stopping these pawns. It's all about stopping these guys. It involves the queen. It involves the queen and these three pawns. So don't do any checks or anything. It's not based on that. It's all based on stopping these pawns from queening. I had to put the kings on the board because the chest won't let the engine won't allow me to do an analysis moving sequence with you if I don't have two kings on. Okay, queen f2. Are you sure about that? Yeah, okay, perfect. That is actually correct. Let's say he goes a7. What do you play now? How do you stop it if white goes a7? Pawn a7. They're trying to queen. They're saying you can stop one, but can you stop both? Ah, nice. Yep, there you go. Now, let's say that they played b7. What are you going to do now? Yeah, there you go. Boom. That's right. Nice job. Nice. Okay, let's see here. I'll pull up a couple more. Let me see if I can find some good ones in the book. Hold on. Because sometimes it's hard to find some good ones. You guys just ate through all that like you know, as they say, Swiss cheese and everything. So I thought it was going to take a little longer. I got to find a couple more that are good. Let me see. No, that. No. No, that's too easy. Let me see here. Sometimes these are hard to. Let me see. Let's see if there's any good ones up here. Ah, nice. These are going to be fun. Here we go. We got it. Nice. I'm loving this. Okay. It's a pawn. These are pawn moves. Perfect. Okay. Get this off the board. Now we'll have the kings be here. White's on d2. Oops. c2, d2. Get this off the board. Oops. Here. Okay. This is testing a little bit of your endgame knowledge. What move would do a breakthrough? What move would allow black to have a pass pawn? What move would allow black to have a pass pawn? c3? Yep, exactly. Because then after it takes, it comes right on in. Okay, next. Now that it's going to be we're adding another pawn to this. This is going to be even more interesting. Okay. All right. Now create a pass pawn through here. Great job, everyone. Nice work. Nice work. Create a pass pawn for black. It's for black, I think. Yeah, black. So we have one for C3. Are you all in agreement? C3. Yep. What do you with them? Are you with us on this Lord's Courage? Is it C3? Are you with us on C3? Yep, there we go. So then after takes here, we take, and the pawn will promote. Nice work. Okay, now we get to go to the H file, so we'll bring the kings over here. So, how do you make a pass pawn here? This one's really a little bit more difficult. You'll have to work through this. There's a couple lines that look very tempting, so you have to find it. B5. Yes, G. Yep, you're right. G4. I just gotta make sure I didn't. Hold on. I want to make sure I'm on the right page. Okay, good. So far, okay, we're so good. Still good for breakthroughs. Hold on, 1 second. Give me a second here. Sometimes my pages turn on me by accident. I'll make sure I have this right. Okay, so there. Okay, I think we're good so far. Let me see here. Okay, let me make sure. I lost my spot. I don't like when that happens. I lost my spot in the book. Trying to get back to where it was, because there's like lots of puzzles on the pages, and I have to find the right one. Close enough. Let me see. Okay, pawn. We need to go to pawn breaks. I think we got it. Yeah, you're right on this one, because if he takes here, you take, and he progresses. And if this takes, you just push onward and you progress. So either way they take, you win. And if they take this way, you just push H3 and you go. Yeah. Pawn breaks. Pawn breaks are so much fun. I can't believe I lost my spot. That's okay. I should have put a bookmark in it where I had it. So to make sure. Let me see. Nothing there. Hold on. Let me flip through this. Just really quick. I'll check the chapter titles. Let me see. Capture solutions. Okay, let me get back to our position then. I'll set up another one. Pawn captures. We'll see what hold on, let me see. 50 pawns. Okay, 50 to 60. So it only goes to page 10, only to page 60. So let's see. So we're so close to. Let's see, breakthroughs. I think we did the breakthrough already on that. So perfect. Okay, silly me. Okay, good. We're good now. I found the right page. I found the right page. Yay. I knew we would. Yep, exactly. Okay, so here we go. I'm not letting my hand off that page again. That isn't gonna happen. Okay, come on over here. You guys aren't really involved. You guys are just, the kings are just spectators. Okay, black to make a pass pawn. What's the move, my friends? My chess crutcher friends. Are we all in agreement with Erie on B3? So, okay, there's two. What about you, play okay? Are you with the team? Yep. All right. B3. Yep. And then you push on. Yeah. Great job. Okay. Next ones. Now black actually gets 3 pawns in this one here. So this should be an interesting one. So okay, black to move. Now, can you create a pass pawn here? Can you break through it and get a pass pawn? B3, B3. So we're all in B3s. Let's see. Does it work? If he pushes, yes, it does. Nice job. Because then when you take here, if he takes, that pawn goes up the board. If he doesn't take, but let's say here, and then you play there, he pushes, and you promote to a queen. Anyways, great work. Oh, the most standard of all breakthroughs we get to do. Okay, yep. Yeah, you get to watch this way. They have popcorn. They both have popcorn, and they're watching to see which one of their soldiers is going to break through. Yeah, that too. You're right. Both ways could actually capture. I should have done the other way too. I forgot to do that, but you're right. They both do capture, and it creates a pass pawn. Yep. Now this is the most standard breakthrough. This is one that's like the standard of the breakthroughs. Do you remember from last night? Yes. Okay. We got an F3. Are we in agreement on it? Are we all in agreement on F3, or do you have any other moves that you're looking at? D3. Oh, D3. Here it is. It's right there. So what's the move? Let's make sure. Hope I'm not lagging too bad. Ah, okay. Perfect. Okay. Yep, exactly. You got it. F3. Kaboom. Yeah, if you take here, you play there, and if he takes, you push onward. If he takes this way, you push, and if he takes here, you go. And then also, if he takes here, you push here, but he takes here, you actually can take on F. She takes F2, which will queen. And if he takes this way, and you take here, E takes F, and you still queen. So there's no way that he can't but queen. We have one more page of breakthroughs, and then we'll get on to our endgame studies as well. Yep, exactly. Great work. Great work. We're on it to win it. Yes, sir. Okay. Oops. Oh, sorry. It's white to move. I apologize. I have the wrong color. Hold on. Hold on. White to move and break through. Okay, two B5s. B5, yeah. Nice job. He takes, and then we push onward, and up the board we go. Okay, now black gets to have a pawn all to himself. 3 pawns too. So let's see if in this scenario if white can actually break through here. Let's see here. I gotta make sure I have this right. I'll put them over here. They can have popcorn and watch the scenes this way. White and black can. Now they can see what their soldiers are doing. They have visual. White to move. How does white break through? G5. So we got 2 G5s. Any more? Any more moves? I'll give you an okay, so we're all on G5, and let's see if that's the correct move. If we take here, you can either take, or if you take here, you can push. So either way you win, and if you push, we push, and so the pawn will queen. So either way, that works. And if F takes, F6, and if E pushes, then G6 R, you can actually take here and a queen. So nice, good spot there. Good spot. Alrighty. Okay, white to move here. A breakthrough is needed. What is the breakthrough? What do you got? What do you think? Are you wanting C3, D3, D takes E6, any of those moves? Which one? You could play here, here, or takes. So D3, I mean D6 or C6. There's C6, D6, or E takes D6. Very tempting to play this move. The only problem with that play okay is that C6 can actually be played and then they lock you down. So that was a good effort. Try one of these two. So we know that D6 is not playable, so D6 is off the chart. You're down to two choices: C6 or taking. This D6 if loses to C6 by black. So you're down to two choices: do you capture or do you push? Which one are you going to play, C6 or capture? We have two that are C6. Are you C6? Ah, perfect. Okay. And you are right. Yay. Because then you can actually push D6, and after takes, you break through. And you also have a take this way that you can break through that way. And if, sorry, that's actually wrong. I need to promote this to the main line. And if he plays here, you can actually take this way, and even if he takes, he's too late. You can stop him. Boom. And even if you take here and he takes here, you can actually take and then queen. So you have so many different ways to break through. Yep, that is right. You got it. It would lead to a draw. You're right. Okay. Hold on, let me see. White to break through here. There's two more puzzles after this one. Can you see the breakthrough? Okay. Are you sure E5? Okay, so we got two E5s. Which one are you going to do? Are you going to do D6? I mean F6, E5? What you going to play? E5? Okay. E5. If D takes E5, D6. So, okay. Yeah, then if he takes F6. Yep. You got it. Nice work. Nice job. You actually could play this way too if you wanted to. Takes, if takes, and you can go that way. There's different ways to break through, but you're exactly right. That does work too. There's so many different. D6, yep, and you got it. Nice job. After this one here, we got one more, and then we'll start into our end game. Hooray. Endgame's always fun. White has 3 pawns and black has 4 this time. Whoa. Hello, that's gonna be a interesting wrecking force. Okay, here's our. Now you gotta find the breakthrough. What is the breakthrough here? Okay. Be blessed. Yep. That's right, because if you go c6 to try to block, d6 and you push onward to queen. And if he tries to take, then you push onward, and if he takes, you're able to queen and you still win. Excellent work. One more and end game, here we come. Ooh, wow, they each get 4 pawns. Whoa, this is gonna be intense. Really intense here. Wow, 4 pawns. Can we handle it? Whoa, can you find the breakthrough here? This is the last one. Are you sure? B5, which one is it? B5 or D5? Which one? There we go. Are you sure? Are you sure D5 or... So we got 1. Okay, D5. Yep, you're right on that. If he plays C takes D, you go B5, and then if he plays pawn takes, you push onward. And then if you go up, but you don't, and let's say he pushes here, you can actually still push B5, pawn takes, and then you promote. And if he doesn't take but pushes here, you can actually take and then come up the board. So you will promote. Nice job. Nice work. Okay, end game, here we come. There we go. Jeremy Silman's endgame course. Gotta love it. Now we're doing... No, everything's great. This is we're going over Jeremy Silman's endgame course, and we're in the 1600 to 1799. So we're doing the rook and 2 connected pass pawns with Jeremy Silman. I couldn't make it. Jeremy Silman has the best endgame course, I gotta say, bar none. Yeah, that's good. There we go. Okay, dokie. This is what Jeremy Silman. Ready to take another step in deeper into your understanding of rook endgame basis or basics. here we will look at how one goes about winning a rook and two connected passed pawn versus a lone rook. We'll settle for this one position because though it sounds easy, it actually is quite a pain to win. That's what he says. And this is how he starts. That's kind of a like in a little box that he talked about. This one is his main talk right now. A rook endgame where one side is up, two connected passed pawns is usually, as you might imagine, a clear win. Surprisingly, it can be quite time consuming to successfully and is often dependent on knowing the key basic ideas on avoiding stalemates and where to place your pawns and your rook at the end of the variations. And sometimes it's very slow build up. That's what Jeremy Silman says, and that's what causes a lot of chess players. And even though you're a rook and you have two connected passed pawns, a lot of players will stalemate their opponents because they push too hard. It's all based on setting up a proper attack. You have to set it up. You have to have the activity of both your rook and your king and your pawns coordinated together. And so now we have, he says, let's do this. He says the trick of making life easy is in the position is to advance your pawns together. So we advance our pawns together so that your king has shelter from checks. Your pawns can defend one another and blockers can avoid the checking on the board. So basically you could check, yeah. First of all, what you want to do is play your king to h3 because you have to advance your pawns and your king together. They have to be in unison. This rook is well placed right now, so you have to get these three soldiers working together. And so the first way to do it is to bring your king up. And also he says this, and make sure your king and pawns are closely connected. So that's why we're bringing these together. The king is one square away from protecting the h5 pawn, and he's protecting g2, so they're in unison. They're together as one fighting force. In this present position, the h is ahead of the rest of the forces. So this pawn is ahead, and the h pawn is ahead of all the forces. And he's kind of, Harry always is one of those soldiers that wants to rush forward. But we have to tell Harry, hold on, Harry. I know you're protected by your brother, the rook. But guess what? You also need the general to come in. The king needs to come in to help. So slow down. And so the king is coming up to defend Harry so that the artillery unit doesn't have to stay defending our wild pawn, Harry. Okay, the king's set up so it can support the pawn. King f6. There is little for black to do, so he brings his king closer to the white's pawns and waits to see what white's going to do here. g3, attack the rook. Also good was g4 is also a playable. Gives white access. This gives white access to h2. g3 gives white access to g4 if let's say the rook moves here and goes f3. If the rook went f3, the king now has access to g4. So, but the rook didn't go there. So that is playable. So g3, rook f1. Preparing to unleash some checks from the back. That's what black wants to do. Black's trying to get into the back and start checking. That's why white played g3, was so that if black ever did check on h1, king to g4 would be actually playable here. So king g4, preparing to push the black king back, basically with some checks. Oops, sorry, went a little too far there. Okay, rook f2. This is kind of passing. More active idea, doesn't change anything. Would actually be, instead of rook f2, would be rook to a1, would be a more active idea. And then rook d6, king g7 to stay in contact with the pawns, king g5, rook a5, king h4, king a4, and then now we play g4, and now these pawns become shield. Yeah, they're a shield for white, and white still pushed black back, so hooray. But in this line, black played f2 to not allow a lot of that to come to pass, so we're still going with our idea, the check. Yep, exactly. Forcing black to relinquish control of g5. So this forces black to, if black comes via this way, the rook would actually come sliding over here, and now we control all this, and the king could then just basically come up the board and have these pawns sheltered. That's if you're wondering why the king, when you go d6, has to actually go to g7. That's the only way that the king and the rook can try their darndest to hold on. Oh, he played king e6. Sorry about that. It's king e6. Wait a second. Did I do that right? That's D. Oh, king e7. Sorry. I knew I read that wrong. King e7. Moving back to g7 is actually, if he did move back to g7, would be met by king to g5. While you're still then, if he tries like here, you push up and your pawns are still connected, and then you have a check on d7, and you're slowly pushing back the enemy. What you should do is try it yourself first. Maybe, yeah, that would be. I know how this actually works. I just want to explain it as we go, and it's always good to do it exactly proper. But you're right. You always should do it yourself first, and then look at the book later. But for teaching purposes, I'm just looking at the book. But I usually do all these without looking, so not to worry about that. Because that's the best way to learn, is actually to trial and error. Let's see here. So we're on king e7, rook a6. A rook endgame is always a good. No, sorry. A rook endings is always a good idea to put your rook as far away from the enemy king as possible. This is called checking at a distance. So if the king is right here, you shelter the king all the way over there. Oh, gotcha. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. You know what? And I figure that the reason I also do it is Jeremy Stillman has it all pre-worked out here, and he has lines that you could go over. It's just wonderful teaching material. So I'm sticking with there's ways of doing it. My teacher taught me how to do it quicker, but this is we're slowly laying the groundwork for how to do it faster. And when you learn this kind of pattern, like what Lord's Courage 2018 said, is that you get the patterns down. You get the feel for the move of when do you shift your rook over? When do you bring your king up? When do you bring your pawn? When do you push the pawns? And then eventually, when you get that all into a sphere of knowledge, or a tangible thing for you to do, you then can put it into your game, and you'll be able to win many rook endgames with connected passed pawns. But the first time I've learned, me and my teacher went over, he showed it to me first, and then I learned. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yep, that's always a good thing. So never lose the love of actually trying it first. So do not worry about that. There we go, rook B, yeah. Exactly. To learn how to do it is important. Okay, rook h4, king h4 is important here. We're preparing to push. This is actually, there's a way of, this is the best way to do it. My teacher told me is to entice the rook to come over to b2, and then when that happens, shift your king to h4, and then if they check on b4, you always have a shelter with g4, and then at a certain point you can actually even bring your rook back to guard while you get your other pawns rolling. But right now that he played h, so he didn't play the check, which is, I'm glad he didn't. That's actually the most inferior move. Rook b4 is actually an inferior move. You want to get your king closer. The most superior move is actually king f7, because this king has to, with all of its might, take whatever get it. He's running over there, sprinting over there, saying, I can make it, I can make it, we could do this, we can hold g4, and the pawns are like, Gary's finally saying, Harry, slow down, man, we're together now, let's go, up the board we go. And Harry's like, I've waited a long time, let's go. So king g7 is playable here, and then h6. This is a vital move here. h6 is huge. It forces the king to either go to h7 or h8. If he goes to g8, that's actually not a good move, because what'll happen is we can then deprive if they go to g8, we can actually deprive the king of more space, and we can just start coming up the board. And if he checks on h2, you can actually go king to g5, and eventually if he tries to pin over here, pin the pawn, you can push this at that point, and you're in a world, black's in a world of hurt at that point. So h6 was actually played. King h7 is actually the best move here. You got to make sure your pawns can shield your king from checks also. Remember that your pawns have to be able to shield your king from check. So now we go king to h5. This has a little bit of triangulation that we're going to be using. Hopefully you become familiar with the patterns that allow the g-pawn to guard the king and allow the king to stay around the pawns. Like if he was talking back here, let me see here, b5 check, that's the reason we came up here, b5 check. This is in line that he's saying g5 shelters the king along the file in case of rook h2, king g5, and then we can check and push the king back further and potentially go for a mating attack. So we played king h5, then he actually checked. Instead of going down the h2 route, which is actually worse for black, This at least somewhat keeps the rook and king connected. So rook c5, so he's trying to pass the time. Yep, exactly. Keep the pawns pinned is the best chance for for the rook. You're gonna find your opponents, if they know their endgame rook and two connected pass pawns, they'll keep their rook pinning your pawn, so that you don't have the ability to advance. This would be actually a plain old mistake, because then you can push g6, and after king g8, then you have rook a8, and what's going to happen is mate to follow. It'll be checkmate and lead directly to a defeat. So king c5, rook a7 check. Yep. King h8. Black sticks his king in the corner and tries to set up a stalemating spot. This is his attempt for a stalemate. Like king g8 would actually lose to a h here, king h6, and then if we checked, he could actually play this after takes and takes. It's stalemate. We would actually be stalemated here. So so what we do here is we say, hey, you know what? We have all the time in the world. We have all the time in the world because of this one thing. We don't have to worry about the 50 move rules. If in 50 moves both sides don't make any progress, it's a draw. Here, white can make progress anytime they wanted with a pawn push. So white has all the time in the world for his rook. What's the point of this odd rook e7 exclam move? Jeremy, someone asked. White would like to bring his king to f7. White wants to bring his king to f7. And the rook acts as a blocker at this point, and you're able to block your the checks when you get there. This one is like your overgrown pawn with a humongous firepower. Sometimes black will march to f6. Sometimes, if need be, they can actually march f6 and then block with e6. And then get the pawns rolling that way and queen. Once white gets his pawn to g6, black's back rank mate will be a threat. So once we get our these pawns here, if we can somehow get our king here, get our pawns like this, there's a back rank threat, and then the rook has to retreat, and we got him. So, and that also applies to black. If black can get their pawns on the third rank like this, and white's back here, right here, you have the same type of setup. So it goes for black and white. Both sides, just different number on the other sides. Don't panic if this sounds too complicated, he says. Look over the solution several times. So what we're going to have to do, we'll probably go over this section again tomorrow as well, because this is a vital section that we actually have to absorb. So before we go on to our next section again, we'll go over this move order sequence again, and we won't talk about it, we'll move it, and so then we can see it in action without a lot of wordage, which would break up the thoughts and the move sequence. So rook c8 is what was actually played here. Another try was actually, Jeremy Silman says, king g5, king g6, rook c6, king f5, king f5, c5, king f6, king c6, rook e6. And this is an illustration that could come to pass like that as well. Okay, now we're going to go back to actually what Jeremy Silman said the move sequence is actually g6 here. G6 is the setup. Remember this: when they go passive like that, go G6. Even if they check, eventually what's going to happen is we get our king around here, and they'll have to go back and become passive at that point. In this endgame, only push the H pawn if you're 100% sure. 100%. I'd even give it 110% sure that the sacrificial thing we showed a little bit ago doesn't work, because it'd be sad for you to have worked several hours over the board and then fall short because we miscalculated. So always be sharp on your game. Excuse me. Okay. Like he's saying, and let's get a move in. So check here. What he's saying though, if you accidentally play this here, let's see, what did he play? Okay, instead of okay, this here instead of g6 is actually a loss here, because rook c7 is actually a draw. Because if you take here, it's stalemate. So that would have been sad. So don't fall for stalemates. Always be on the lookout what your move, what the new position would look like. Like this is forced. Now he's got to go back. More checks just force the king up the board more. So e6, king a1, a8. So now he's passive, and then d7, king d7. The immediate let's hold on here. D7 is to actually go here, and I'm thinking. Let me see if we this. Potentially he would be able to go here, and if we took, this is actually stalemate. So you have to be careful. If you're wondering why did Jeremy Silman play d7, so that if there's a check here, we can actually move. We can get in there. Rook e8 is forced, check. King f7 now. King f7 now doesn't have the same. If he checked here, we can actually just move our king, and we're still fine. And you wouldn't want to do. And then what he'd have to do is, if he moves back, now you have this type of a checking setup. Or actually, sorry, this here. And then rook takes, king takes, and then you can actually just get going there. There was no check, so the rook went to g8 to hold. That's what he did. He went to g8. Yep. Okay. Rook g3, g7 check. Watch out for e7 because of rook f8 exclam. Since black would have to go back if he ever took, it would be a draw. So just be careful. Just remember, you got two pawns. Even if the rook wins both of these pawns, you still have a rook that will checkmate your opponent. So you're still winning. You just have to hold it all together. Now rook e7 makes sense because the rook can't go to e8. If it did, you take rook. You can actually take with a bishop. You could take it. Rook takes bishop. Our pawn takes rook bishop. If he played here, you can actually take and make a bishop. Oh, yeah. Be blessed, and we'll see you tomorrow, okay? And there you go. And then rook a8. He's gotta somehow hold the position together. Rook e7, or rook e8. Rook a7 check. King f8. And at first look, you might think, "Oh no, this is horrible." He says, "Advance your pawns to." This is what he says, and then we got to. I got a log after this. He wraps up the entire process in a couple words. Advance your pawns together so that your king has shelter and your pawns can defend one another, and block any checks. Any unwanted checks. Make sure your king and your pawns are closely contacted in contact together, like a block. As in most chess structures, a team is effective as a fighting force. He also says another one here. Make sure your pawns can shield your king. He does that. It checks. He says that again. So it's vital that they work together, basically. Be patient. Push the enemy king back slowly, and make progress gradually. Once you force the king back to the 7th rank, or to the last rank, basically, a couple files to the side of your pawns. Place your pawns on the 6th, right back here. What he's talking about is at this point here. When he comes up, when he came back, place your pawns like this. And then maneuver your king around in. And then bring your king to the 7th. Make sure your rook, and you have to always make sure that your rook can block any of the checks. Sometimes you have to make sure that there's a flight square for your king to go to, even if they check. Don't be tempted to just take the piece, because if there wasn't a spot for the king to go to and you took, you can actually lose the entire game. So give a check by moving your rook to the 7th rank. That's what he's saying, to set up this type of format here. You want to set this up here. So after, when the rook came here and moved, you check. He comes up, he goes there to make sure we have the rook, king, and everything connected together. He goes there, we push g6, which is the plan. Then we bring our rook over, because if we put our rook, king here, the rook could check with an exclam and make a draw. So white takes a second. Oops. Yikes. Sorry about that, guys. That was an eye shifter there. Okay. White makes a gradual spot for the king to flee to, so that after check, king up, the king can flee. And then, at this point, you can then play g6, g7. And then you basically win the game at that point. And then it's slowly, gradually setting up. And we'll go over it again tomorrow too. Okay, do you have any questions on this end game before I log off? Nope. Any other? Okay, are you sure? All right. Okay, perfect. Well, I wanted to thank you all for participating on those puzzles. We're getting better. We have to always keep in mind, like what Bruce Lee says, that he feared the person who he didn't fear the person who's practiced 10,000 individual kicks. He did fear the person who had practiced 10,000 individual kicks, but he didn't. He actually feared the person who had practiced one kick 10,000 times. One kick. So, like, chess players don't fear if we know a lot about opening or middle game. The great thing to study and to practice and hone down while we're doing end game is so that we can do that Bruce Lee statement, be 10,000 practiced in the end game, so that we know what to do when it comes to pass. We can push it to where we want it to be. And remember what did E. Nightingale say? E. Nightingale says, "We become what we think about." And the same thing with Rusty and the little engine that could. When she asked, she wanted to be a hauler. If you think you can, you will. If you think you can't, you won't. Either way, you're right. That's basically that. And knowing is not enough, you must apply. Willing is not enough, you must do. And remember, treasure your victories and learn from your losses. And always, and remember that mistakes don't define you. It's how you handle the mistake that defines you. And we have the chess motto: don't give up, get up. And like Yasser Seirawan has a really good one as well, Grandmaster. Every long journey begins with one small step. Let's see, I'm gonna think. Oh yeah, and we have one more, and then I'll say good night. Is this: always remember, there are no limits to the human potential. There are plateaus. We must not stay there. We must go beyond the plateaus that we're at right now and keep thriving. And remember, what do we do? Like with Tigger, when you're studying in Mozart and they come over and ask what you're doing, I'm a chess cruncher. What's a chess cruncher? A chess cruncher hangs up their coat, they hang up their hat, they sit down and study when most won't. We do, and that makes all the difference. As Wesley So says to the Lord Jesus, as I say, God bless. I'll see you next time on Chess Cruncher TV. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, and evening. And Lord willing, I'll be back on tomorrow, and we'll keep pushing forward and go over that end game again, and then keep doing more studies and getting better and improving and shooting to that 3,000 level marker. Yeah, I just wanted to wish all you, my Chess Cruncher friends and team, a happy Resurrection Day, and He's alive, and we're forgiven. Okay, be blessed, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.